The Galactic Council's Xenobiology Symposium had been droning on for 3 standard hours when Professor Zixthor made his proclamation. The insectoid academic's mandibles clicked with satisfaction as holographic images of various Earth fauna rotated above the assembly floor. "As you can clearly observe," Zixthor announced, his translator rendering his chittering into smooth galactic common, "the dominant species of Earth, these humans, achieved sentience despite sharing their world with utterly untrainable beasts. No other known sentient species has faced such a disadvantage." Belle sat in the back row of the auditorium, her hand gripping Eli's arm hard enough to leave marks. Her boyfriend glanced at her, noting the dangerous gleam in her brown eyes. He'd seen that look before. Usually right before she did something that would get them both in trouble. "Belle, don't," he whispered, but her hand was already rising. Zixthor paused mid-gesture, his compound eyes swiveling toward the lone human in the audience. "Yes? The human delegate has a question?" Belle stood, her heart hammering against her ribs. 200 alien faces turned to stare at her, some curious, some dismissive, some utterly unreadable. "With respect, Professor, your data is incomplete." A murmur rippled through the assembly. Zixthor's antennae twitched with what might have been amusement. "Incomplete? I have studied Earth biology for 15 cycles. I assure you—" "My mom taught 1 tricks," Belle interrupted. The murmur became a wave of chittering, warbling laughter. Even some of the more diplomatic species couldn't hide their amusement. Eli buried his face in his hands. Zixthor's mandibles spread wider. "Young human, perhaps you misunderstand the concept of training. Teaching a creature to respond to basic stimuli is not—" "She taught a wolf to play dead, fetch specific objects by name, and perform complex task sequences on verbal command alone," Belle continued, her voice steady, despite the heat rising to her cheeks. "That wolf lived with our family for 12 years. His name was Shadow." The laughter died. Several delegates leaned forward. "Impossible," Zixthor declared. "Wolves are apex predators. The aggression centers in their neural structures make them—" "My uncle trained ravens to solve 3-stage puzzles," a voice called out. Belle turned to see another human, one of the ship crew members, standing in a side entrance. "And to recognize over 100 different human faces. My grandmother had an octopus that could open child-proof containers," another human added from the opposite side. "I trained a horse to count," someone else shouted. Eli finally stood beside Belle, squeezing her hand. "My dad worked with dolphins. They learned abstract language concepts. They understood syntax." The symposium dissolved into chaos. Zixthor was clicking frantically, trying to restore order, but more humans kept speaking up. Maintenance workers, diplomats, ship personnel. Each had a story. Each had proof that the professor's fundamental premise was wrong. "Order!" The voice belonged to Ambassador Threndal, a 4-armed Kashari who served as the symposium's moderator. The room fell silent. "These are extraordinary claims. Professor Zixthor, how do you respond?" The insectoid's antennae drooped slightly. "I would require evidence. Surely these are exaggerations or—" "I have videos," Belle said quietly. She pulled out her personal data pad, her fingers moving quickly. "Every human family records their lives. We document everything." She transmitted the files to the main display. The hologram shifted, and suddenly the assembly was watching a younger Belle, maybe 7 years old, standing in a backyard with a massive gray wolf. The girl in the video held up her hand. "Shadow, sit." The wolf sat. "Down." The wolf laid down. "Play dead." The wolf rolled onto his side, tongue lolling out, utterly still until the little girl giggled and said, "Okay." Then the massive predator sprang up and licked her face. More videos followed. Humans with dogs, cats, birds, reptiles, even insects. creatures that, according to every known xenobiological model, should have been impossible to train performing complex behaviors, showing loyalty, displaying what could only be called affection. But how? Someone whispered. Bell turned to face the assembly. Because we don't see them as untrainable beasts. We see them as family. We see them as partners. Earth's animals aren't a disadvantage we overcame. They're the reason we survived. Eli stepped forward. Every species here achieved sentience in isolation or competition with other sentients. You developed technology to dominate your worlds. We developed it to live alongside ours. We learned cooperation from wolves, strategy from cats, communication from dolphins. We didn't conquer Earth. We negotiated with it. This changes everything, Threndal murmured. If humans can create cooperative bonds with non-sentient species on such a scale, it explains a lot about human psychology, another delegate added. Their seemingly irrational attachment to non-sentience, their unusual pack-bonding behaviors, their ability to form alliances with disparate groups. Zixthor's mandibles clacked slowly. I must revise my research. He looked at Bell with what might have been respect. Young human, would you be willing to provide a full account of human-animal domestication for the council records? Bell glanced at Eli, who grinned and shrugged. She turned back to the professor. Only if you acknowledge that Earth's animals aren't untrainable. They just needed someone willing to understand them. Agreed, Zixthor said. As the symposium adjourned, delegates surrounded the human contingent, asking questions, requesting data, marveling at the videos still playing on their personal devices. Bell felt Eli's arm around her shoulders. You know everyone on the ship is going to call you the Wolf Girl now, he said. Bell laughed. Could be worse. I could be known as the human who stayed quiet while someone insulted my mom's best friend. Fair point, Eli conceded. Shadow would be proud. Bell smiled, looking up at the alien stars visible through the auditorium's transparent dome. Somewhere, 13 light-years away, Earth spun through space, a world where humans and wolves had once stood together against the cold and dark, and in doing so, had taught each other what it meant to belong. Maybe that was humanity's real gift to the galaxy, not their technology or their tenacity, but their unshakable belief that no one, not even a wolf, had to face the universe alone.